Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? All right, let's talk about the second gold rush because it's definitely here. I'm listening to the news, I'm reading articles, I'm listening to YouTubers, and they're just swiping up gold like there's no tomorrow. The biggest claim jumpers are central banks around the world. They're setting records on the amount of gold that they are purchasing. And I keep suggesting that people take a step back and ask yourself, well, they're the central banks. These are the people that we complain about all the time. They're always up to some kind of corrupt crap. It should catch your attention when they are all rushing to gold and they are loading up their banks with it. They're hoarding it is what they're doing. So I got a video that I want to play. We'll go through it. And you can see now part of mainstream media is starting to, well, I don't know if you want to call them mainstream media. It's Epoch Times. It's talking about what's going on out there with gold. It's nice to see a big news channel at least talking about gold, but they're not the only ones. A lot of people are. So let's get into this. Before we get started, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. And if you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, head on over to our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link will be down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy Silver. Yes, it has changed. PIMPY-SILVER. So if you're watching this video and it's an older video, make sure you check on current videos because the code is going to be changing from time to time from now on. Also, I can be found on other platforms. Everybody knows I have my own website, Pimpy's News Network. Over here, I post videos that I can't get away with over on YouTube. Also, I have a group on Facebook called Pimpy's Investment Chat. Over here, we do talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. Come on over here and join us. It's free to do so. You can also come follow me on Twitter, MeWe, YouTube, and Odyssey. The links for all these platforms will be down below in the description. So for whatever reason, if I get removed off of one platform, you could find me on the others. Now, I've been preaching to people about buying gold and silver now for a long time. And I heard Andy on Chris Marcus's show, Arcadia Economics. If you are not subscribed over there at Chris's channel, I highly recommend you go check him out. I heard him and Andy talking, and I'm more than positive I heard him say that there's some companies out there that are minting these silver eagles, but not for public purchase. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Why the hell would they be making silver bullion coins if they're not giving access to the public? Well, I mean, your brain could go wild. You can make all kinds of assumptions and speculate all you want, but it's hard not to feel like these guys are probably preparing for us to go back to the gold standard. There's a good possibility that we might go back to silver coins. I don't know if that's feasible or not, but why else would they be minting eagles and not allowing the public to have access to them? Now, every time I talk to people about gold and silver, they're always talking about the price. Look at the price. It went up. Look at the price. It went down. The price are going down. I'm losing money. And, when you hear that kind of talk, you know that the people are into the gold and silver for all the wrong reasons. Now, I get there's a lot of people out there who want to get rich. And is that a possibility? Of course, it's always a possibility. And when I tell people that you want to preserve your wealth, I've done examples many of times. For those of you who are new to this channel, I did an example where I took a house back in the 1930s, and it cost 143 ounces of gold for you to buy that house. 143 ounces. I said if you kept those same 143 ounces of gold back then, you could still buy a house with it today. So that's what I'm talking about. You keep your purchasing power. It doesn't lose its value. Now, when people think of value, they're watching the price of the gold and silver. No, when I say value, I'm talking about its worth in trade. It's worth in what you can get for that precious metals. If you could still buy a house with the same 143 ounces of gold that you could have bought a house with in 1930s with the same 143 ounces of gold, then that tells you all you need to know about why it is you are buying into gold. It's a hedge against inflation. You can preserve your wealth. You can preserve your retirement, your 401ks, your IRA accounts. Because right now with inflation and the stock market's tanking, a lot of people lost a lot of their retirement. Why are central banks around the world stocking up on gold like there's no tomorrow? Most of these banks are the BRICS nations banks who want to start their own reserve currency that's going to be backed by gold. That's why you should be buying gold yourself. If you can't afford gold, then buy silver. And people would be surprised that you can actually buy gold. You could buy them in fractionals. You could buy them a half gram, a gram, 10 grams. You could buy those. Those are affordable prices without having to fork out a couple of grand just to get a 1 ounce, okay? So let's listen to Epoch Times. This here is Roman. I don't know, looks like Roman's trying to blow me a kiss here, man. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But let's listen to what he has to say because it's really important. You can see up there the name of the video is Central Banks Quietly Buying Gold at the Fastest Pace in 55 Years. Out there, they're trying to tell us don't buy the gold. The gold isn't worth anything. But then in the background, they're piling up on it. So let's get into this.
While most Americans have been focusing on the rising inflation, the war over in Ukraine and all the money we're sending there, as well as the Chinese spy balloon, what seemed to have flown completely under the radar was the fact that both China and Russia have been stockpiling massive amounts of physical gold. Furthermore, it's not even just Russia.
And India is stockpiling a ton of silver.
Russia and China. Looking across the entire world, it seems like most central banks are in the process of increasing their stockpiles of gold. In fact, according to the World Gold Council, central banks bought a record 399 tons of gold just in the third quarter of last year alone. That's the most recent data point that we have access to. What that means in practice, though, is that central banks are buying up gold at the fastest pace in the last 55 years, which is notable because 55 years ago, the US dollar was actually backed by gold, and most other currencies were tethered to the US dollar. But now, the US dollar is backed by nothing. Depending on how you look at it, the US dollar is technically backed by either debt to the Federal Reserve or it's backed by oil through the petrodollar recycling scheme. Although that scheme is beginning to crack as well, with Saudi Arabia reportedly getting ready for the petrodollar's collapse. And so, in practical terms, at the same time that the US government has racked up an impossible amount of national debt and printed the US dollar into near oblivion, we're seeing central banks across the entire world ramp up their hoarding of physical gold.
Saudi Arabia now entertaining other currencies to buy oil with instead of using the petrodollar, which is the United States dollar, which makes it the reserve dollar. So not only do we have a ton of paper dollars out there that were created, but we're also about to lose a ton of value once they stop using the currency to do trade, once they stop using the currency to buy petrol with it. It's going to cause the US dollar to lose about 40-50% in purchasing power. That's why if you have it in gold, that won't make a difference. Your gold will be just fine. When the dust settles, you'll be able to get a lot more of those fake dollars. And that's why I keep encouraging people to buy into precious metals. If you can't afford it, then buy gold or mix it up with gold and silver. And if you can't afford gold, then I highly recommend you look into silver.
We're also seeing different countries smelling blood in the water and beginning the process of forming alliances to create a new global reserve currency.
And they're de-dollarizing.
Such as the initiative that's being driven right now by Russia and China with the BRICS nations, which of course include Brazil, South Africa, and India. So the big question here is, with all these giant players making these big moves, what will it do to gold as a store of value? And perhaps more importantly to anyone watching this video, what will it do to the price of gold? And so in order to get an idea of what this all means and what exactly these central bankers are seeing in the future that we might not be, I got a chance to speak with Mr. Max Baker, who is the president over at American Hartford Gold, one of the largest dealers of gold bullion here in America. And by the way, just for full disclosure, they are my personal gold dealer. I usually buy from them once a month. And also, they are a long-term sponsor of this program. But in my opinion, that only gives them more credibility, given that in the, you can say, current media environment, sponsoring a program like ours, a show like Facts Matter, and helping the truth get out to ever more people, actually requires a company to have a backbone, which fortunately American Hartford Gold does. And being the president, Max has a good feel for the pulse of the gold market.
Geez, I can almost say the same thing for Money Metals backing me.
He buys and sells such large volumes every single day. And here's what he told us. Max, thank you so much for joining us. So the first question I had is, I saw a report not so long ago showing how from the 2008 financial crisis up until now, central banks have increased their gold holdings by 25%. Even while publicly they kind of demonize gold, say that it's a relic of a barbaric past, privately they're actually hoarding gold, especially like China, Russia, and some of the kind of more developing countries. Why is that? Why do you think that they're hoarding gold?
Hey, you're right. In the third quarter last year, they purchased 400 tons, which is the largest purchase on record. So they're certainly stockpiling, and looking at countries like you mentioned, Russia, China, Iran. They're looking at digital currencies right now. They're looking at backing those digital currencies with gold, with something stable. So, that's coming out in reports. You're not really seeing it in the mainstream news, but it is making its way there little by little. And certainly, they're not the only countries buying across the board. The central banks are preparing. They're preparing for a recession.
And speaking of recession, the numbers just came out here in the U.S. of the inflation year over year. It's, I believe, 6.4%.
To me, shadow government statistics are the more realistic number. You can see right here, they have the inflation now about 10%. Before it was up around 16, but it has come down a little bit, just like everybody else's. So when you hear me say that's not the real inflation rate or that's not the real unemployment numbers, I come over here because they use the traditional method in keeping statistics, and they don't go in there and they don't candy coat these things.
And it increased by about 0.5% month over month. What do you make of that? Where do you think this is headed, and what do you think is driving some of that inflation?
Well, from 2020 to 2022, we printed about $10 trillion. Printed a lot of money, increased the money supply by 80%. And anytime you print that much money, you're going to have some inflation, and it's going to be pretty stubborn, hard to deal with. Raising interest rates up to 4, 5, 6%.
Here's my thing. We didn't actually print the money. And it seems to me that legally we shouldn't have to pay that debt back. That's the government's responsibility. And I understand that we are the taxpayers and the government's working on our behalf. But no, they don't. They are not asking us permission to send billions of dollars over there to Ukraine. Or I don't want to see $2 million spent on lesbians' sexual habits after taking ecstasy. You know what I mean? Stupid studies like that. Once they removed us out of the equation on decision making, then they are the ones responsible for the debt. They all managed to get super rich while they were in office, becoming millionaires, while the rest of us got poor. So let them pay for the bill.
Yeah, the cat's out of the bag. Interest rates alone are not going to prevent inflation. There's just so much cash out there, so much money printed, that we're going to continue to have to battle inflation for a long, long time. It's not a quick fix that's going to go away here in 2023. It's here to stay.
Yeah, and when you mentioned the $10 trillion printed, I've been tracking the M2 money supply over on the Fed's website, and I mean the chart is just astronomical. Back in I believe 2012, I remember seeing the chart and I thought like, oh, I missed the boat on this one. But in the last 2 years, the chart has just gone parabolic with the amount of money that's been printed. Right. What do you foresee the price of gold? Because gold, the reason I buy it is because it's a hedge against inflation, right? So is there a delay in this money printing versus the actual price of gold needing to catch up to absorb that supply?
Yeah, it is going to take some time. That being said, you do have just about every major investment bank predicting gold to be considerably higher this year. From Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, UBS, Citibank, they're all predicting gold to rise anywhere from 25% to 70% in the coming year. And it does take...
That's 2023 he's talking about.
...some time for it to catch up, but certainly we're at a place right now with interest rates rising, with a recession on the horizon. This could be a lot like 2008, where you saw the dollar fall 35% and you saw gold rise 250%. It's very, very similar to that. So it will take some time, but the outlook for gold is very, very strong.
What are you seeing on the back end? Because I know Hartford, you guys do a lot of selling and buying. I mean, you're like one of the biggest in the U.S. What are you actually seeing on the back end for your buying and selling? Is there kind of a creep up, or is the strength of the dollar kind of putting downward pressure on the gold price, and you're sort of waiting for the dollar to maybe weaken? Yeah,
the dollar's been really, really strong over the past year. It's just people flocking to the dollar because, if you're in the stock market, if you're in the NASDAQ, you're losing 31% last year. So you had a lot of people flocking to cash.
If you had stock in NASDAQ, it lost 31% overall. 31%. That's over a third of your nest egg. If your money was put into NASDAQ for retirement, man, you took a pretty big hit. But luckily, you listened to me and you moved 25-30% of your holdings into gold, so you're protected.
Being said, gold buying has been very, very steady. It's actually been on the rise over the past couple of years. Our company, has since 2000 done 5-6x in sales over the past couple of years, and that's going to continue as the gold price, was sold an awful lot of gold last year, and gold was pretty flat, but the stock market was down big, dollar was strong. This year, I'm seeing gold rise, and with that, I believe gold buying is going to continue to pick up. It's starting to make its way into the news. Just about every single day, you see something come out.
That's what I was saying.
And we're talking Fox Business, we're talking Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal. You're seeing articles come out about gold and predictions for gold to rise and why people are buying gold.
And you shouldn't focus on the paper value. Stop watching the dollar amount for gold and silver. I know it's easier said than done, but just keep stacking. Right now is a good time to be buying right now. So just keep stacking, and then later on you can focus on the dollar amount because you're going to see it move up.
And so it's been very, very steady, even with it being flat. With gold taking off this year, it's had a strong start. With gold taking off, I think it's going to be a very, very good year for gold.
Yeah, you're talking about the news media talking about gold, but I sort of always viewed it in the opposite. I remember when my Uber driver last year was telling me to buy Bitcoin, I was thinking, now is definitely not the time to be buying Bitcoin when the Uber driver is telling me to do it. Instead, it's like, you should be buying what nobody is talking about when nobody's talking about it. When everyone's talking about it, it's probably already near the top.
Sure.
From the back end, you mentioned a few banks having their own projections. What do you see? You probably have your pulse on the price there. What do you project the gold to be by, let's say, the end of this year or maybe this time next year?
Yeah, we've been floating around the $1,900 range to kick off this year. I personally believe about $2,300 by year end is a good place to be, and then by 2024, I could see us creeping up over 2,500. Wow. And I'm right in line with Goldman Sachs. They're predicting 2,500 this year, so that's a 35% rise.
Yeah, that's where I think gold is going to be at the very least is 2,500. But I should have known they're going to hold the price of gold down while they hoard gold, unfortunately. I'm anticipating the price of gold to really start to run here shortly. So hopefully everybody gets aboard before it's too late.
Over the next 10 months.
Wow. What about silver? Because, there's usually a very kind of a correlative relationship between gold and silver. And I read recently that India set some import records in last year for their import of silver, as did a number of other countries. What do you view silver to be? Is it going to be better, let's say this year or over the next year than gold, or comparable?
So, gold's traditionally more stable in terms of its price fluctuations. It's very much a safe haven. Silver, it can be a little more volatile. That being said, in terms of getting a return, silver would be where you'd want to put your money. If you're looking just for a safe haven insurance policy, throw some money in gold. If you're prospecting a little bit and you want a return in a short amount of time, silver is a little more risky, but it does move in big swings.
That's what I was talking about before. I said gold moves up and down very slowly. The momentum is much slower. And I showed everybody on the graph what it looks like. And I said that silver is like the sporadic kid that's high on sugar, running around getting crazy. It goes up, it goes down, and is a lot more volatile than gold is. But history shows us that the ratio of gold to silver is 15 ounces to 1. And we're nowhere near that. That's why right now buying silver, if you're looking to make a profit, is the best investment. I know I was telling you guys to buy gold because I'm thinking about how it holds its purchasing power, but maybe it is smart that you buy more silver, and then later on, as things mellow out, you could swap over into gold and then use the gold to preserve your wealth. If gold gets around $2,500 per ounce, you're going to see silver pretty close to $30, if not a little bit more per ounce.
And it does follow gold upward. So if all these major investment banks are predicting gold to rise this year, it's a safe bet that silver is going to rise. And it is very, very undervalued at this time. So, I personally have been stacking silver. I do see a tremendous upside in that over the next couple of years.
You can go ahead and smile. For all you people who have never stacked silver before and started stacking, you can go ahead and smile.
Practical ways that, let's say, somebody's watching this and they're looking at their stock portfolio, which is either flat or down. They're looking at different commodities that they can get into, but it's like the world right now is a bit shaky, and gold seems to be sort of strong with an upward trajectory. What's the best way to get into it? I personally don't. I've never played with the 401k or IRA approach to it. How does that work?
Yeah, we have clients that invest in gold and silver. They want it shipped to their front door, and we do that. But the bulk of our business over the past couple of years, with everything in the news, is people looking to protect their retirement accounts. They're fed up with taking losses in equities. They feel like it's a casino, and so they're moving a portion of their account into physical gold and silver. And it's a pretty easy process.
So see, it's not just Pimpy's listeners that are doing it. People all over are doing that. So feel good about your choice.
Self-directed IRA, transfer funds tax-free, whatever you were looking to protect or hedge with, and then certainly invest in the gold and silver, and that's stored at a third-party vault until you're ready to take distributions of that metal, or gold rises and you want to liquidate, you can certainly take profit. But I think seeing everything from 2020 till now, most Americans are saying, hey, I want to exit the casino, and certainly I just want to protect what I have. And it's a pretty easy process, and that's become more and more popular over the past couple of years.
So just to confirm, that is still tax-free within the Roth IRA account, right? To transfer your portfolio into physical gold and silver is still a tax-free process.
See that? So if you guys go through Money Metals, you can transfer over your IRAs, your 401ks. Just give them a call and they'll help walk you through, and it's tax-free. Because usually when you take money out of your 401ks, your IRAs, you have to pay taxes. But instead, you're moving it from one investment into another, and you don't have to pay no taxes.
Until I guess you cash out.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Still a tax-free, penalty-free process, because you're not taking possession of your retirement account. You're simply going from custodian to custodian.
In terms of, let's say, a minimum, is there a minimum purchase level to that process?
Yeah, we're dealing in hundreds of millions of dollars. We are, the largest firm in the country by volume. So we do have a $5,000 minimum on cash transactions, and a $10,000 minimum if you were looking to hedge with your IRA or 401k.
Whoa, man. Thank God for Money Metals, because you don't have no minimums like that, all right? So, you don't have to spend $5,000, although it would be idealistic for you to do that because you're trying to preserve your holdings. But there's no minimum of $5,000.
What do you recommend for somebody starting out? I'll just preface that by saying when I started out, what I just did is I started putting away money every single month, and I was buying silver because it's a smaller entry point. The spot price difference between the base metal and the coins that actually get delivered to me is pretty low, and it was a good way to get my foot in the door. And then once I felt comfortable and I started making more money, that's when I started to go for gold. You think that's a good process?
I think you hit the nail on the head. That's the way to do it. You start dipping your toe in the water a little bit, accumulate a little bit of silver, get comfortable with the process, learn about the assets, see some appreciation a little bit, and then down the line you can start doing larger and larger amounts and start getting into gold. But certainly most Americans are novices when it comes to investing in gold and silver, and so we like to hold your hand through the process, and it is wise to kind of start out small and go from there. But as you become more familiar with it, you start to understand the big positives in gold and silver. Me personally, I feel very safe having that hedge, that insurance policy on my money, knowing that I've got something that has no counterparty risk. And it's the only thing in the world that doesn't have counterparty risk. And with everything going on out there, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. So I have tremendous peace of mind.
Cliff High has mentioned that their mint is producing a lot of silver and gold eagles that they are not making available to the public. I've heard him say that a couple of times.
So that's where I heard that from. I've caught Chris talking to Andy. So it's both gold and silver bullions that they are hoarding. And if that's the case, you got to wonder why. What's really going on? And the first thing that crosses my mind is, are they planning to go back to gold and silver coinage? It's going to be interesting to see, that's for sure. Gold will be interesting, unless they go to smaller coins. But there you go. There is a gold rush going on. It's happening around the world. Central banks everywhere, governments everywhere are buying up gold, and you should too. And if you decide to go ahead and get into precious metals, reach out to Money Metals Exchange. They'll be more than happy to help you. Just tell them Pimpy sent you, and they'll take care of you, okay? The link for them are down below in the description. Anyways, I look forward to your comments, and I'll get at you later. I'm out.